I think Eric just mentioned in the larger call that he said because of what's going on and meeting virtually, we're actually able to all come together, and he wouldn't have necessarily had the same opportunity if we were to meet in person. And I have a similar experience because I grew up in the Fort Wayne Baha'i community, but I have since moved and I live in the Scottsdale area. So once the weekly devotionals that they hold in their community went online, I've been able to join in, which has been wonderful because I get to see all the Baha'is in the community and non-Baha'is too that have been invited. And I'll talk to you all about that as I go through my presentation. Well, I think most of you were here and I gave my my informal introduction, but if you missed it, I'm Ashley Smits. I am a Baha'i in the Fort Wayne community as of now, but I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. And Jeeling had reached out to me a few weeks ago and asked me, after I had done a couple devotionals for the Baha'i community in Fort Wayne, if I would be willing to give a talk on how to create these wonderful digital devotionals. The name of this is called Devotional Refresher. So as I prefaced, there is a portion in the beginning that will talk about the what are devotionals and why devotionals are important, but the bulk of this presentation will walk you through how to create these devotional experiences digitally so that we can still create the community and the spirit that you get when you are in person and with people. So that said, we will begin, and I will tell you that the first portion has audio recordings. So we'll go through it and you'll hear the audio. So I just ask that if you have any questions, just wait until you hear me start talking again.
In diverse settings throughout the world, Baha'is and their friends unite with one another in prayer. Whether in urban settings or villages, these devotional gatherings consist largely of reading prayers and passages from the Baha'i sacred texts in an informal yet respectful atmosphere. A spirit of communal worship is generated by these simple gatherings, and the spirit begins to permeate the community's collective endeavors. For more information on how you can join a devotional gathering or start one yourself, contact the Baha'is in your area.
Devotional meetings are occasions where any soul may enter, inhale the heavenly fragrances, experience the sweetness of prayer, meditate upon the creative word, be transported on the wings of the Spirit, and commune with the one beloved. Feelings of fellowship and common cause are generated, particularly in the spiritually heightened conversations that naturally occur at such times and through which the city of the human heart may be opened.
Gather ye together with the utmost joy and fellowship, and recite the verses revealed by the merciful Lord. By so doing, the doors to true knowledge will be opened to your inner beings, and ye will then feel your souls endowed with a steadfastness and your hearts filled with radiant joy.
Thou hast asked about places of worship, an underlying reason, therefore. The wisdom in raising up such buildings is that at a given hour, the people should know it is time to meet, and all should gather together and harmoniously attuned, one to another, engage in prayer, with the result that out of this coming together, unity and affection shall grow and flourish in the human heart.
The flourishing of the community, especially at the local level, involves the practice of collective worship of God. Hence, it is essential to the spiritual life of the community that the Friends hold regular devotional meetings.
The spiritual growth generated by individual devotions is reinforced by loving associations among the friends in every locality, by worship as a community, and by service to the faith and to one's fellow human beings.
The holding of regular meetings for worship open to all, and the involvement of Baha'i communities in projects of humanitarian service are expressions of this element of Baha'i life, and a further step in the implication of the law of God.
Gatherings dedicated to prayer throughout your blessed land, in every neighborhood, town, village, and hamlet, and the increasing access that your compatriots are gaining to Baha'i prayers are enabling your community to shine the light of unity in the assemblage of humanity, lending a share to the endeavors of your fellow believers through the world. Plant then the seeds of future Mashrikul Askar's house of worship for the benefit of all, and ignite countless beacons of light against the gloom of hatred and inequity.
Know thou that supplication and prayer is the water of life. It is the cause of the vivification of existence and brings glad tidings and joy to the soul.
So in conclusion, friends, devotionals are regular gatherings where, regardless of religion, faith, or creed, different races and souls of every capacity come together so that love and agreement can grow between them. And it's a time to share prayers and readings from sacred scriptures of all faiths. As I've mentioned throughout the quotes that I pulled, devotionals are really important because it fosters these fundamental Baha'i things that we have in our community, like there's fellowship and there's service and just the creation of environment and atmosphere, this uplifting. So that, as we know, it has been a focus over the 5-year plan. So this is really an opportunity for us to continue those efforts and just move it into more of a virtual space. So I'm going to move into the how, and the how has a lot of technicalities, and I hope it's not overwhelming, but because I know that sometimes presentations and clicking around can be overwhelming, I have actually made this into a PDF that I will share with the chat at the end of the discussion. And in this presentation, there are live links that you can click on, and it will take you directly to the resources that I've included. So don't feel overwhelmed or that you need to take notes, because I'll give this to everybody at the end so that you have it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is platforms. So I'm sure everybody knows Zoom now, and that is what Indiana Baha'i Summer School is working with to create this experience. There are other options as well if Zoom doesn't work specifically for your needs. FaceTime is something that most of you are probably aware of if you have an iPhone or if you have a Mac computer. It's great because you can call somebody and you can also add in individuals. So maybe for a smaller setting, if you were trying to host a devotional with just a few people, that might be a nice tool to use. You just have to make sure that everybody has either, like I said, an iPhone or a Mac computer. I included WebEx, GoToMeeting, and Microsoft Teams, just because some of you might have companies that have these already on your work computer. I have all three for my company, and although I haven't needed to use them or ask them to use because I use Zoom myself, you might be able to ask your company if you could use their platform offline after work hours, so you could hold these devotionals. And then if you're comfortable with Facebook, Messenger Rooms is basically was launched a few months ago to compete with Zoom. And you can see it's underlined, so that means there's an active link on how you can utilize Messenger Rooms if you want to try something different. I put a star by Zoom because I think that that's a really easy and great option. And I feel that at this point in time, most of you have probably been introduced to it. And I have included even sign up and how to use. And the nice thing is that you can sign up for it for free. There are some limitations. You can only have 100 participants, and they limit you to a 40-minute time. But I've been in calls where we just ended the meeting at 40 minutes and then all called back in. So you can use it, and especially if your devotionals are shorter. And it's really a nice option. And then I'll use Fort Wayne Community as an example. They actually purchased a higher level of Zoom, and that allows for longer times and more participants, and they can host things like the Indiana Baha'i Summer School through the Zoom. So if you want to talk to your community maybe about purchasing an option with Zoom so you can have more options, that would be really a great thing to think about. And I am hosting on our community's Zoom room a book club that I started about race equality. So I've used it not only for devotional and Baha'i related things, but other things with permission, of course, of the Baha'i community. So next we're going to go into presentation programs, and I hope that all of you have heard of at least one of these. I am using Keynote right now to give this presentation, and I use Keynote because I've had a Mac computer for ages, and Keynote comes installed on your Mac computer, so I've just had to use it for work, and so that's what I'm using. The limitation is that it is for Macs only, but they have really amazing customization options, and once you're familiar with it, it's really friendly to create presentations. Google Slides is one that is newer to me, but it's nice because whether you're on a PC or a Mac, all you need is a Gmail, and you can basically access Google Slides, and it's web-based, meaning that you can basically do your work. It automatically saves. You can come back to it. It's just live. You can go on using a different device, and where you left off on the previous device, it's all there. So it's really helpful in that regard. And then PowerPoint is probably the most commonly used software, which makes it really easy to Google any problems you have, and you'll be able to find resources. Can be used on PC and Mac computers depending on what you have. I have, again, linked for all of these. So I hope if you really are serious about creating a devotional and you want to understand how to use it, you can watch these videos. And I tried to find the shortest one that's really informative. So it's a beginner guide, and I think it can get you started. And then for those of you who really want to read some more, I've included also a link that you can read the pros and cons of each and what the differences are. So now getting into more of the bulk of the devotional. The theme and topic. For me, I feel that in order to create a devotion that is powerful and resonates for me individually, I like to pick a theme or a topic. Themes could include nature, light, gardens, ocean, and topics could include life after death, race amity, oneness of mankind. And the reason for this is because I feel that if you are passionate or at least moved to do a devotional on one of these themes or topics, you'll see that in the delivery of the devotional. I wrote assigned versus selected because sometimes I know the community can say, hey, I feel that we should, in the wake of George Floyd, create a race amity devotional, or somebody knows someone whose father passed away and you want to do life after death. So there can be something that the community asks, or maybe you're really moved to do a specific topic or theme in light of an event that happened. The last point, which I think is more of a larger idea of themes, is if you want to hold a regular devotional, which I encourage all communities to do, you can make it fun. The Fort Wayne Baha'is started Pie and Prayers pre-pandemic, and they would have pizza pies and dessert pies and prayers every Thursday. So there would be pie and prayers every time you would come to devotions. And they continue to do pie and prayers. They just no longer bring the pie portion. So I've offered a couple ideas here: pie and prayers, dessert and devotions. And the last one is a little off topic, called Park and Prayers. But if you're really yearning for that interaction and that face-to-face, if you're comfortable, come up with a theme for Park and Prayers, go to a park, stay 6 feet away, wear masks, and hold a devotional there. Okay, so content. Again, all of these little bubbles that have lines under them are going to direct you specifically to areas where you can find content. So once you have defined or chosen your theme or topic, you have to find that content to support it. And so I've provided resources here that I find really helpful. Down in the corner, Google. I know it sounds crazy. I mean, maybe it doesn't sound crazy, but I literally will type in any word and then add Baha'i at the end, and everything that comes up is pretty much Baha'i related and will link me to any of these other resources that I've included here. So I'll just show you a few because I just want you to see how easy it is to be able to search for any topic or theme. So I'm going to go to the Baha'i Reference Library, and I'm sure most of you know these. So, it's not new information. I think it's just a time for us to have just a resource document that we can all go and utilize these. So you can see there's a search feature here. So you can type in basically anything you want to type for, and anything you want to look for, I'm sorry. And you can scroll through, look, there's 556 pages. So it pulled every article or prayer that says garden. You can also look by authors on the left-hand side, and they're all, you can click on them and then you can be taken to all of Abdul Baha's works. It's really, really user-friendly. And if you speak another language, there's those options as well. There's a Baha'i quotes, same idea. I won't click on all of these. Baha'i prayers, I always go to Baha'i prayers either on my phone, there's an app, or I'll go directly here. And the nice thing is that it's basically broken out like a table of contents. So if you're looking for something specifically, if you're doing a devotional on spiritual growth, you just find spiritual growth and then you have all these prayers. And what's super nice about this is that you can just copy and paste into your chosen presentation. So it's really amazing how many resources that we have online through the internet. And of course, home libraries, we can definitely pull from our home libraries, but I hope that these 4 additional resources, if you haven't been able to use them, you do use them moving forward. So visuals and sounds, I would beg to argue that the crux of a digital devotional is including these visuals and sounds throughout. And I will tell you what I mean by that as we go through the rest of the presentation, but just so we all are understanding what I mean by visuals, that could be photography, illustration, any type of artwork, even colors that you use in your presentation or fonts. They can really convey a mood. They can change the look and feel of your presentation. Sounds, especially, is it pre-recorded? Like my audio, did you ask people to send you an audio file so you could include it? Is it a live performance? Do you ask somebody in your community, would you be willing to sing or would you play? We can still have um, these same performances while we're doing things virtually. And then think, is it more just you want to be able to hear something, or do you want people to be able to see something on screen? And participation, do you want to be able to still have a round of singing with the whole community? I've been on one Zoom call where we all sang together. Basically, we want to engage our viewers, especially with devotionals not being able to have that face-to-face interaction. So I think that the visuals and sounds inform the mood and message. So what I would suggest too is that as you're going through, once you've selected your theme, as you're going to create your presentation, think about what kind of mood do you want to portray? Do you want to give off a certain emotion? Do you want to create a feeling? What is the tone? And I'll say this because I think that there are devotionals that really, depending on the subject matter, can come across differently. And then the second portion, the bullet points below, the lighting, flowers, plants, incense, candles, that's all about atmosphere. So I think we sort of think that if we're looking at a screen, there's no way that we can create this ambiance or this atmosphere. And I beg to differ. I chose to sit in the basement for the specific view because it's well lit and the table is at a good height for the computer and the flowers behind me. So I think that in our new digital life, we still need to create some of these atmospheres in our physical space. It's really important that you get in that spiritual mindset, and that may be a matter of you having to change rooms that you're in. So I'm going to go into a little bit more of the graphic and visuals. So these are just the intro pages to 2 devotionals that I did. And it's basically just to convey that idea that when you pick a theme, the mood is very much portrayed by the visuals that you use. So the garden devotionals, obviously bright colors, showing a garden and flowers. And the water devotionals, a scene of water, bright colors. And you can kind of think to yourself about all the different metaphors that are used and in the writings and in prayers and what that conveys. And typically with these 2 themes, you know, they're bright and beautiful colors, so you can have visuals support that. Whereas maybe you have a little bit more of a serious topic like racial equality or life after death. And I think the visual you pick, again, can really help to create this mood that you're trying to convey. The racial equality one that I did, and I'll show you more of the slides on the next page, it was all black and white. And that was because the content was really powerful and it didn't need photographs in there. It was distracting because really the focus was on the words and what was being conveyed. Life after death, I mean, like death is a mysterious topic for some. And the photo that was selected here is very appropriate for what is our life after death. So you can kind of see how I've picked certain graphics to convey the topic and set the tone. This just is a little bit further into that same idea. On the left-hand side, you can see the garden devotionals, and I reuse the same photo. It's just one photo throughout, but you can see it's bright. There's a lot of white space. It helps the reader to read. And then on the right-hand side, it's the racial equality. And like I said, there's no graphics there. It's all graphically based on the black and white type. And you can see that on some pages, it's black with white text. And then on others, it's white with black text. So there is a pattern and consistency in the thoughts behind it. And even the fonts change, and you can see how fonts might be able to create a mood. And sometimes just not having any type of elaborate font could also say something. Here's the life after death, and these are just thumbnails of each of the slides. And I think is really great about this particular devotional. There's a couple of things which I had mentioned earlier when you're deciding about what you're going to give your devotional on. A friend of the community who's not a Baha'i was dealing with her father's anniversary of his passing, and she wasn't able, because of the pandemic, to travel to visit where he was buried, and she wanted to. So somebody in the Baha'i community said, hey, could we do a devotional over life after death? And my grandmother actually had found these quotes, and I told her, I can put together a presentation pretty quickly for you, and I'm happy to help you with that. So these images that were selected, like I mentioned, you know, they're mysterious. They're more landscapes of these beautiful scenes, because life after death is a beautiful thing, but some of the slides are mysterious. We're not sure. So the visuals can really help to support what you're trying to say. And the collaboration component of somebody finding readings and then me helping to put together the devotional is also an opportunity for service that I'll talk about at the end of the presentation. So for those of us who are more technically savvy, think about ways that you might be able to offer service to your community to help to create these devotionals if somebody who isn't as comfortable setting them up. So next I'll go to my resource page for photos. Basically, I have given you 4 options. I'm sure most of you know Google Images. I yesterday was given Baha'i Media Bank, which I don't know how many people know about Baha'i Media Bank, but I showed my mom this morning and she said, I can't believe I haven't known about this, but it's basically a media bank, as it's titled, of all these different topics or photos, basically. So you could go into buildings and places and you can pick any of these that you want, and then there's photos for you already, and you basically would just click on it and then download it. So it's a really great resource for Baha'i photos specifically. But then there's others that I think are equally as helpful. Unsplash is one that I recently discovered through my work. And why I like Unsplash is it's free. All these photos look like stock photography, but they're free to download. So you can type in anything you want, and you basically have just these wonderful photos at your fingertips that are free, that you can download. And what's nice about these resources are they already are high resolution photos. They're made for people to put together presentations like this, to print. So the quality is there. I know sometimes in presentations I've sat through, you can see that there was a beautiful image, but once it's actually blown up to the size of the screen, it becomes pixelated and blurry. So the resources that I offer have definitely taken that into account. So you are basically introduced to a plethora of images, and it's easy to find whatever topic or theme you might like. And remember too, if you're looking for something that says that's the topic on devotions, maybe that's not the word you type in. Maybe you need to say prayer or church or coming together. So think about expanding your search too as you're going into these photo resources. I'm going to quickly talk about Google Images just because I feel that that's a resource that a lot of us use. And I just want to talk about it only because for that purpose of finding images that aren't great quality. And I had a Baha'i reach out to me and say, every time I search for roses, I find really pixelated images. So if I were to look for roses, I basically get all these images, but once you maybe click on it and download it, maybe the quality is really poor. And so what I want to show you, and the steps, the next 2 pages show the steps of this, so don't worry, is that you can actually create search features. So if you just go to tools, you can actually have a size button here, and you can pick large, and then it'll just filter all the large images. So now you have photos that should be usable for your presentation. You don't have to worry about it being pixelated or being really, really small. So I hope that that will help a little bit and is less intimidating when you have to find photos. So like I said, this page and the next page are just the steps of what I did with Google Images, because this can help you as you're trying to find those assets that you need. So back to the mood of the presentation. We talked about the visuals, so now we're going to go to the sounds. On the left-hand side of this page is, it's a video recording of a prayer, and on the right-hand side, it's just the audio of the same prayer. And I just want to play each of them briefly. We won't listen to the whole thing, just to show how, depending on what type of sound you include and or visual, it can create a different experience.
Create in me a pure heart, oh my God, and renew a tranquil conscience within me, oh my hope, through the Spirit of power. Confirm thou me in thy cause, oh my best beloved.
To the whole thing, but as you can see, that was a beautiful video. The lights in the background, the video aspect of it, but sometimes maybe you don't want that and you want people to focus on the words. So in this case, you could maybe just include the audio. And I've learned through experience that sometimes it's hard to hear what the words are, especially if it's not a prayer or if it's a section of a prayer. So I found that if you include the words on screen while you're playing a song, it can help people to follow along.
Create in me a pure heart, oh my God, oh my God, and renew a tranquil conscience within me, oh my hope.
I'm sorry to abruptly stop it. It's so nice. Okay, so songs. So what are your resources for songs? So YouTube, obviously YouTube. And what's really nice about YouTube is that there are already a ton of Baha'i playlists. I basically had typed in a search Baha'i songs, and once you go to YouTube and you start to look through, you'll just end up in a rabbit hole of Baha'i performances. There's so much on YouTube, and as I scroll down, if you see on the right hand side any of these shaded rectangles, this means that it's basically a playlist. So in the Baha'i blog studio sessions, there's 285 songs. So as you are looking to include songs into your devotional, please use YouTube. There's so much great content on here, a lot of older songs, newer ones. I also will share with you one that most of you probably know, Baha'i Blog. And why I like Baha'i Blog is that actually they have resources outside of just songs. So that intro video that I played on what are devotionals, I found on Baha'i Blog. So they have resources not only for devotionals in terms of prayers or writings, but look at all these videos. I mean, you can browse basically for anything, any topic here. But especially, I think there's so many unique songs that you can find to include in your devotional. And just like I showed you with images, you would just basically do a general search and you'll have many options that come up. And I've also included below the Baha'i Blog, it's a mix of the YouTube and the Baha'i Blog, but the YouTube channel basically has the studio sessions, the quote studio sessions. So those are those videos that are recordings that we've seen, that we just watched the previous video that I shared. And then on the right, I'm not going to get into this too much because maybe it's a little bit too technical, but for those of you who are comfortable with giving a digital presentation, sometimes it's distracting if you're going from a presentation and then you're having to shift over to Google, like I just have done 4 times. And these two resources on the right, UT and Video Grabber, they actually allow you to copy the URL of whatever video that you've found on YouTube. And you can basically download it to your desktop and then you can insert it, you can embed it into your presentation so that you don't have to be clicking back and forth. It's pretty simple, but again, if that's a little bit too overwhelming, if you're not tech savvy, then get somebody who is and they can help you figure that out. Okay, so I'm going to move into a little bit more of the physical space, the atmosphere, and creating an atmosphere. So one of the things that Zoom offers is a virtual background. So that can be a nice option if maybe you're feeling like your space doesn't feel clean, or you just, if people are behind you or anything distracting, you can set a virtual screen. I think though, most importantly, is finding an area when you're holding these devotionals, one, if you're giving them, but 2, also as a participant, and creating an atmosphere that is conducive to coming into a meditative and prayerful state. And I think that by creating this beautiful space for yourself, it just helps to elevate how you feel spiritually. And most of us are working remotely right now. And I know for me, it's a challenge when I have to go from my desk working straight into a Zoom call. So what I've noticed is that I have a desk that I normally work at, but if I'm able to go into a different area of the house to have devotionals or any other gathering, it really helps me to dissociate from the work that I'm doing and to move into this more prayerful state. So I've included mood boards here just because I thought they were fun, but the point of that is you can create a special space for you to have your devotionals. And to further that, and these I think are 2 great ideas, so I hope that somebody will take these and run with it, is that to make things fresh each week, or even just to create a specific mood for a devotional, I thought how great it would be if everybody who was on the call turned off the lights and they just had candles on their desk and it illuminated the screens, or everybody brought in plants or flowers, whether they were artificial or real, and set them on their desk. And it just creates some fun and some variety, and it can really help to set up the mood, especially if you're presenting. I only have 1 slide on this, but this is probably the most important. So the spiritual and physical prep. I was thinking about presentations in general as I'm giving this presentation, but the same with devotionals. It doesn't matter how many people are on the devotion every week that I join. If I'm giving it, I still feel like I need to prep spiritually and physically. So I offer that maybe you treat these digital devotions as you would if you were hosting people in your home. Ask people beforehand, would you be willing to read, and share with them the passage. It helps them to prepare, and so they're not stumbling over words, and it really helps to elevate the presentation as a whole. And I think that people feel a lot more comfortable when they're reading something to a group once they've seen what they're reading. Or you can reach out to somebody in the community and ask them to play a musical instrument or maybe sing. And run through your program, especially programs like these, beforehand. Every time I run through my program, I find things that aren't working, links that don't work, or maybe videos that don't play. So I think it's really important as we go into this virtual space that you practice, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be doing it. And then of course, spiritually, I think that it's really important still to maintain the steps that you would do if you were having people to your home, or if you were leading a devotional in another setting, whether it's saying prayers or meditating or just collecting yourself beforehand. And this might seem silly, but I put this on here because I do this anytime I give a presentation. Getting ready and taking a shower, putting on makeup, putting on nice clothes, getting yourself again as if you were going to somebody's house. And I think that is really important, because essentially we're talking to God as a community. You know, we're elevating the conversation. So I think that we can still present ourselves as we would if we were going somewhere. And then for all of you who are like me, I always want my desk and space really organized and clean. And I feel like that helps too, if you have a nice space that you are talking to people. I've been participating in a virtual meditation, and the facilitator always is in the same spot, but it's always so nice. It's just her chair, and she has one thing on the table, and it's beautiful. And I know that's her sacred spot for when she does her meditations. Here are my final thoughts. I mentioned this earlier, but if tech is overwhelming for you, ask somebody in the community. This could be a really great opportunity for them to offer service, or it could be a really great teaching opportunity. Two of the people that I asked to read in the beginning portion over the devotionals aren't Baha'is, and I just asked them, can you please read? So maybe you reach out to somebody who isn't a Baha'i and you say, hey, I'm putting together this program, and I was curious if you would mind reading. You have such a great voice, and I'd love to include it. And then that obviously opens up discussion. If they don't know you're a Baha'i, or if you were trying to invite them, you could offer the opportunity to join in a devotional. I think what else is really great about this digital devotional space that we're in is that you can connect with people so much more than you can if you were just in your own physical community. So like I mentioned, I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, but I've been joining the Fort Wayne communities devotions every week, and I'm here at Indiana Baha'i Summer School, which I typically miss because I'm not physically present. Of course, this year I'm physically present, but it just offers an opportunity to connect to people across the globe, really. How cool would it be to have a interconnected international devotional where you ask friends from all over to join in at a time that works for everyone? Get kids involved. Kids are so good. One, at tech, you could ask them to do a devotional if they wanted, or have them read and have them participate. It's something that is great. Anytime I see kids on the other side of the screen, I think that's wonderful that they're still participating, even if we're not seeing people face to face. And then setting up weekly events. I know that the NSA has asked all homes to hold devotionals, but outside of that, I think that just regularity of an event allows people the reliability. So those who might not be Baha'is, if they know that every Thursday they can come and join a devotional if they're feeling like they need that, setting that day and time every week and upholding that will help to create this reliability on that as a resource. And I say resource because I think right now so many people outside of the Baha'i community are looking towards the Baha'is saying, hey, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, and this would be a great opportunity to engage them in devotionals. I've had personally a colleague who I wouldn't have invited, I don't think normally, to an in-person devotional, but somehow, because it's virtual, I said, why don't you join? And she did, and she came. And I don't know if there's less pressure by not going to somebody's house or maybe not fully committing, but there is something to be said about having an online platform where people can come very easily and can just join, and then when it's done and they can log off, and you have a little bit more independence in that regard where you can say, I just need to go. And so we can respect people's times a little bit better when we're on a virtual platform. And most importantly, during this time when we're not able to see each other, I feel that these devotionals, and especially if we create an opportunity to have them weekly, you're connecting with people. And that's what this is all about, right? It's connecting, it's building that community. So you're now engaging with people all over the globe, essentially. So I think that is all I have. I say let's chat because I have given all my tips for creating an actual digital devotional, but I know that there are, as great as it sounds, there are hardships about having things online. And so I'd like to open this up to discussions from different people in the community who have had successes with online devotions, or if they've had challenges and want other people in the community to give them advice on ways to maybe assist with those challenges. So I talked fully. And I appreciate you joining this session, and I hope you learned something. And as I mentioned, I will share this presentation in the chat so you all have the resources at your fingertips should you choose to use them.